Aloha, everybody. Aloha, everybody. Welcome to another No More Shame Wednesday with Athena and Bobby. I'm Athena Moberg, and this is Bobby Parrish.
Hi, everybody. We're so glad you're here.
We're tonight's topic is a really heated topic. We did have our weekly sex abuse chat last night, and
Yeah.
we've also had just a lot of feedback and emails and private messages regarding the topic of forgiveness. So before we get started,
Yes.
I just want to welcome everyone. I want to welcome, first of all, I would really love to welcome our people that are tuning in and watching live right now from the UK. I realize that it is like in the middle of the night on Thursday, and you guys are rock stars, and you're amazing that you're even here. And if you're tuning in on iTunes or Stitcher or iHeartRadio or SoundCloud, we want to give you a very special welcome and let you know that this is a video broadcast, so people are seeing us talk with our hands and refer to screenshots, and
Yes.
you can get this complimentary downloadable resource that we have for you just for being one of our loyal subscribers and just for being amazing. You can
That's
go
right.
to nomoreshameproject.com. nomoreshameproject.com, and then there's a little button and it says downloadables, and you just click on that, and tonight's topic, the downloadable resource that's there for you that's complimentary, is called Abuse and Forgiveness.
Yes.
So we're really happy to have you. We're so excited. I think that's all the housekeeping items. Bobby, do we have any more announcements?
Um, well, for those of you who are watching us in real time or somewhat near real time, don't forget, next month is No More Shame November. And it is a month where we're going to be talking every day, as often as possible, about survivors, abuse, and shame. And our whole purpose for the month of November is to shatter the shame. And so we're going to be posting on our website every day a survivor story of how they helped to beat the shame that they have felt as a result of their abuse. We're going to have a page of survivor blogs, so if you ever want to read any information on blogs written about survivors, that's the place to go. And Athena, I think there's one more element. What element of that, what am I missing?
Well, No More Shame November, like we're talking about, I love to refer back to your quote, Bobby, where we were talking about community is
Yeah.
shame's kryptonite. So community is shame's kryptonite, and that's sort of how this whole thing began for No More Shame November, and that is we realized as survivors and being in a huge community of survivors online that was started by our very dear friend Rachel Thompson and Bobby Parrish. And they started a weekly Twitter chat where people were talking openly, being in community with others. There's a private Facebook group where everybody just openly shares. And through that outreach of community and enjoying just the element of community, the shame of our abuse was decreasing little by little by little by lot. And so we just truly believe that the more we welcome people and sort of scoop them into our fold and into our
Right.
community of non-judgmental support and
Right.
just hearing other people's stories, we truly believe wholeheartedly that your shame will absolutely diminish. And I mean, if you guys know of TED Talks or Brene Brown and you're familiar with her, you know that the statistic is 100% of humans feel shame. It is just natural for them to feel shame. It is natural for us to get embarrassed about something, feel shame about that, whether it is logical or illogical. It doesn't matter. Cognitively isn't what it's about. So if you're a human and you're listening to this, chances are you have felt shame at some point.
Yeah.
And you might be feeling shame because of some sort of abuse that was from your childhood or even recently, and we're here to take that portion of your shame and throw it away and diminish it, and that is why this is called the No More Shame Project, and we are so happy that you're here.
And because it's important for us to work on that shame piece, because we've recognized that when the shame is heavy and when it really bogs you down, it's difficult to work your recovery process. And so when we can tackle that shame and help reduce it and help free you up free some of your emotional energy, free up some of your mind, then you're able to work through your recovery much faster and much easier. So that's why we target shame so heavily, and that's why it's going to be the focus of No More Shame November. Oh, and the anthology comes out in November as well.
November 17th.
Yep, the very first anthology of survivor stories from the No More Shame Project. So stay tuned for details about that. If you're listening to this past November 17th, know that it is available on Amazon for ebook, and we're going to be getting out the paperback version very shortly after the 17th of November. So
yeah, that is so exciting. Oh my gosh.
Is.
So I posted in our Facebook community. If you're on Facebook, if you're a fan of Facebook, you can find us at the hashtag No More Shame Project. And you will see a really cool little button that has hands that are being held like this, as in we're together, we are not apart.
Right.
And there's a little ribbon, every survivor, every voice, every story. I support No More Shame November. You can just snag that off of our Facebook and post it somewhere on your blog, or we will have a button that you can just snag with code for your WordPress or Blogger theme on our website coming up here pretty soon in the next week. And we would love if you would just share that with people. And I also posted today on our Facebook page that there are dozens and dozens, and even more than I even knew about, blogs that are actually written and hosted by survivors of some sort of abuse.
Yes.
And they're really good. Like, the content is amazing. The content is encouraging. It's applicable. It's culturally relevant. It's a little bit edgy, sometimes snarky, and always real. So if you are a blogger and you happen to be a survivor, even if the topic of your blog is not your survivor story, even if you're just you've been healing through your abuse, you've been in recovery, you write about widgets, you write about shoes, whatever you write about. If you're a survivor, we want to feature your blog on our website during No More Shame November, just to add you to our community of survivors.
Absolutely. And you know, one of the things I know I have dealt with is that sometimes when people find out that I'm a survivor, they look at me like I'm damaged goods. And so we really want to share the message with the world that survivors are capable, competent people. That's why if you write about widgets, we want your blog, because we want the world to know, look what this person went through and where they are now. Guess what? Anybody can survive what they survived and be an incredible asset, an incredible person. And so send us those blogs, and if you have a website, send it to us. If you're a survivor, we want it.
Yeah.
And we want to post it on our page.
We do. And I have a little spot. It's on Facebook. It's a public page. It's the No More Shame Project page. And I have a post that I put up there about an hour ago. And you'll see it just says, there are so many blogs out there by survivors. Please send us a private message, or in the comments below, paste your link to your website. Yeah. So we do want to post that up on our website, on the nomore.shameproject.com website, which has lots of valuable resources, and we want to feature you for the month of November. Yep. And we're looking into other creative ways to sort of get the word out and just welcome people into our survivor community so they do feel less shame. And yep. There are so many different types of abuse that people are survivors from. I know there's been a lot of stuff in the media lately from different types of, there's a lot of sensationalism going on and what have you, but regardless of whether or not things are being blown out of proportion, it's real. And there are a lot of people out there that are survivors that are writing. There's one gal that I found that I think she writes recipes. She has a recipe blog. Which, really? Hello, like everybody eats. I would love to read your recipe blog, and I would love to promote your recipe blog ahead of everybody else's just because you're a survivor, and that's just where I'm at. So, yeah.
Really quick, Athena, can I take that, and I was wondering this, can I take that button and use it as my Facebook avatar for the month?
You can. Okay. I actually changed the Facebook page's profile picture to the button today. Today is the first day. So So maybe that's another creative way we could get the word out. So if you're listening or watching, maybe you could, in support of No More Shame November, change this to your little profile
I
picture.
think that would be fantastic for the month of November. I'm definitely going to do that. I'm going to
I
change
think
my
I'm going to do
avatar.
that too.
And so I can just right-click on it, copy
Uh-huh.
it, save it to my picture directory, and then go
Uh-huh.
into Facebook and upload it. Yeah?
Yeah, or desktop. If you are wanting to use this as your Facebook profile image for the month of November in support of No More Shame November, we are super excited because this is just obviously real time. We're coming up with all of this. This is a little brainstorming session. We will send you the picture in your email if that's something that you need us to do. Just pop us a message, send us a tweet, do something. We're excited for as much exposure that could possibly happen. So we are here for you. And tonight's topic, if you're just tuning in, is forgiveness. And it is a big, big, big one. Should we forgive? Should we not forgive? Do we have to forgive? Do we not have to forgive? What are we forgiving? Are we forgiving our abusers? Are we forgiving the people that enabled our abuse? Are we forgiving ourselves? And I have to do a tiny little shout out as we transition into forgiveness, Bobby.
Okay, hit me.
Joel Bogus and Pei Kang of the Relaunch podcast. They launched my episode today, and it had a lot to do with forgiveness.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a link someplace where people can see it?
I'll put it in the show notes. I'll put it in the show notes for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
And it's on the Relaunch. It's on the Relaunch podcast website. It is, I believe, on episode 142. So you could even go to relaunch/142, and I think you would find me.
Okay.
And I also posted it on. I also posted on the No More Shame Project's Facebook page.
Fantastic.
And I tweeted it out. Too.
Okay. Good. So those are a bunch of different ways that you can find that. And now, not being very podcast savvy myself, Athena, can they listen to it from the website page, or do they have to download it? How do the people who are not savvy with podcasts actually listen to it?
What I did is I pasted it on Facebook, and if you just click on my face, that's their little Relaunch podcast thing, and it says Athena Moberg, No More Shame Project. They titled it the No More Shame Project. It's really awesome. And if you just click right on my face, you can listen to it just like that.
Oh, fantastic. I love it. Okay, should we move along then?
Yeah, forgiveness.
Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the one page and share that with you. Again, it's on the No More Shame Project website. You'll see a tab up at the top that says Downloadables.
Yeah, just click on the Downloadables tab, and that is our gift to you for being one of our listeners or viewers or loyal, awesome, amazing Survivor subscribers.
Yes. Is it up, Athena? Can you see it?
It is. It's up there. You rock. You're so techie.
One of the things that you are going to hear Athena and I say over and over again, and it tickles me to death to see other people picking this up and saying the same thing. Athena and I are strong believers that your recovery is yours. You are in control of it. You have the power. You can make the choices. What we're here to do is give you every piece of information we can possibly think of that will help you to make the choices that are right for you to recover. We're not here to tell you what to do. We're not here to tell you what's better, what's bad, what's good, what's right. Nobody knows that except you. We are here to tell you if we think something is healthy. For instance, we're certainly not going to promote if your idea of something that's good for you is to go out and set fire to the town where you were abused. We're not going to guide you that way. But with anything that has to do with things like choices that you can make about, do I consider this, do I not consider that, do I make this part of my recovery, is this right for me, such as the topic of forgiveness, you're going to hear us say it's up to you. Here's what forgiveness is, here's what it's not, here's how you can apply it, here's how you cannot, here's some things to consider, go for it, it's yours, let us know if you need any help, we'll help you talk through your options. So one of the most important things is you don't have to forgive your abuser, or don't forget, you also have those people who helped facilitate the abuse, either through their neglect. So say, for example, one of your parents is your abuser, the other parent wasn't present, they turned the other way and didn't look. You reported it to them and they didn't take you seriously, or they didn't believe you. Or like last week, we talked about the example of reporting the abuse to one of your parents, and the parents saying, well, there's nothing I could do about that. I don't want to get a divorce. I don't want to leave your mother or father, so just try and stay away from him or her and keep quiet about it. Okay? All of those people are people that you can consider forgiving. And then maybe you did talk to your family and they told you to sit down and be quiet. Maybe they still tell you, stop talking about it. We don't want to hear about it. Sit down and be quiet. You're just causing trouble.
The ever popular, don't air your dirty laundry.
That's right.
Yeah.
Don't share the family's difficulties in public. Yes.
Yeah.
And all of those people are people that you can, should you choose, work on forgiveness. And I think it's really important for people to understand, we often use the term forgiveness within a religious or faith tradition or spiritual framework, but it didn't start out that way. Forgiveness started as a word that means to cancel a debt. For example, one of the earliest ways that people dealt with a justice, what they felt was a justice system, was, for example, if you did something that caused, you killed one of my cows, well, then you owe me another cow. Now, I can forgive you and cancel that debt. You don't owe me a cow now, I forgive you. But that's the way that people worked out within the justice system. If your brother murdered my brother, then it's only appropriately that your brother lose his own life, unless we choose to forgive that debt. So forgiveness doesn't have to be a religious concept. I realize that there are some religions out there, and Athena and I talked about this a little bit earlier today, that I grew up within the Catholic tradition. I think you did too. Is that right, Athena?
Yeah, I definitely was in a family that considered themselves Catholic, for sure.
Yes.
There were a lot of holy statues everywhere and holy water.
Yes, you talked about that last week. Good grief.
Yeah.
And you showed us the picture of you on your first communion, right?
Yep.
Yeah. That's all coming back to me now. And so the concept of confession was an important part of my family life, my upbringing, confessing your sins, needing to ask for forgiveness. But we're here to tell you it doesn't have to be within, so if you're agnostic or you're atheist, or perhaps you belong to a faith tradition that doesn't necessarily espouse the topic of forgiveness, it doesn't have to be a religious or a spiritual concept. It is simply a concept that means you choose to forgive someone's transgression against you. You cancel that debt. You don't seek requital. You let go of the anger. You let go of needing to have vengeance. And
let's talk about that. Let's touch on that. So the anger part, and I remember it was brought up at chat last night, and I actually was thinking about it a lot today. In fact, I was listening to the replay of the interview on the Relaunch podcast, and Joel asked me a question, and he said, when did you get around to forgiving that person in the mirror?
Ooh.
Yeah. And I said, I'm so glad that you asked that question, because I had this deep, deep, deep desire to break that cycle and make sure that it was different for my son. And everyone in the whole wide world knows that we're not perfect. And in all of our well-meaningness and good intentions, we sometimes miss the mark
Right.
On a daily basis. I mean, I know that I did, and sometimes my mistakes were more lasting. Sometimes my mistakes were bigger than others.
Right.
There was a particular person in chat last night that was mentioning, there were a couple of different instances that I wanted to bring up before we move on to the should you choose
Yes.
to consider forgiveness. These are the steps that you could take. So
Right,
just add
right.
more on the topic of anger. I just want to talk about this part. So it was brought up about, like, if you choose to forgive, it can help you with displaced anger.
Right.
And I know that a lot of people do not subscribe to that belief. I personally have had success and victory and peace and all things good as it pertains to displaced anger and raging out at people for no reason, like it's something so small, but for some reason it comes off super huge.
Right.
Once I worked through my recovery process in, like, letting go of that need to punish and seek vengeance upon the people that either harmed me or bullied me or allowed the abuse to happen. So
really quick, Athena, tell people what displaced anger is.
So, sorry about that. Thank you for calling me out if I use jargon. So, displaced anger is when, I'll just use an example from that's very real life in my home and my situation.
Right.
Okay. So, my son, when he was very, very little, he was a child, obviously, very little, like 10 years old, and I would tell him that he was never supposed to leave the lights on, that he needed to make sure he turned them off.
Okay.
Some days I would be totally fine, and I'd be like, you forgot to turn the light off, like, why don't you go turn that light back off like I asked you to, type of thing. And then other days I would honestly, like in the deepest part of my being, feel like he left that light on purpose to harm me, like to tick me off and upset me, like just to be spiteful or to be disobedient. Like, what's your problem? Why would you do that? I asked you not to leave the light. Because he was 10, and because that's what 10-year-olds do, right? They purposely try to do things to upset you. No, they don't. Like, they're 10 years old. They just forgot they're a kid. But when you grow up in a situation, what I'm learning now as I'm an adult, just because I couldn't wrap my brain around this whole thing, like, what's my problem? Why am I raging out on my kid over a light switch? So I finally was able to, just through prayer and meditation and going through recovery and seeking the advice of Christian counselors and therapists and just professionals that understood how the neural pathways work in your brain and responses to things, like, just, anyway, I learned finally that when I was growing up, the very people that were supposed to be loving me and taking care of me and protecting me and showing me how to be an adult and learning good skills and molding and shaping my future in the way I looked at myself in the world, those were the people that were harming me on purpose. They were abusing me either sexually, physically, mentally, emotionally, you name it, it was happening. And they would oftentimes sit back and laugh about it and taunt me and just encourage other people to be mean to me, and just, it was really horrific. I'm just thinking about it right now. It was really, really horrible. Like, animals should not be. People do jail time for treating animals that way, and that's how I was raised. So, like, seriously, like, it was just wrong. Yeah. So I somehow, in that moment, for some reason, whether I was just tired or something or whatever, or hungry, I don't even know what the deal was, I, in a gut reaction, responded and sort of raged out on the only person I had in my life that really loved me, which was my son. That was, like, the person that I had the closest relationship with. So that anger that I projected at him was displaced. It was meant for someone else. I didn't even know it was there, and I accidentally allowed it to hit a different target, which is why I say it was displaced.
Yes. Yay. Thank you so much. That's helpful. Okay, but I feel like I took you off track now. Okay.
Oh, no. It's okay. So anyway, it was just mentioned in chat last night that should you choose to forgive, either yourself or your abuser or what have you, it can help if you are having anger issues. And I know that it was a little bit of a, you know, sort of like the jury's out on that, whatever. And again, this is not your reality. This is not your recovery. This is mine.
Right.
And my reality is that when I worked on forgiving and releasing the need to punish people and have vengeance and be upset with them for the way that I was treated and not taken care of, then I stopped raging out on my kid. And so if you're not having those problems, I have something in my eye right now. If you're not having those problems and you don't have to worry, then that's really great. You know, I just happened to have been in a place in my life where I was raging out and I didn't want to. It caused me a lot of pain to see the look on my son's face, like, what did I do?
Right.
And I specifically now, as an adult, as a 40-year-old adult, remember looking when I was young and my mom or my family members would do things to me that were unjust or unkind or very cruel. When my loved ones at a family function or a holiday or an outing or at my home would be intentionally mean to me, I remember looking at them like, I don't understand.
Right.
Like, what's going on?
Right.
And then I was told at that moment, you better wipe that look off your face before I smack it off. And so I've never said those words to my son ever in a million years. I would never. But it reminds me of that same look where he would be like, why would I do anything like that? Like, no, of course I didn't leave the light on purpose. And I was able to go, oh, okay. Yeah, that does sound crazy. Okay. So for me,
for you, that was an area you wanted to forgive. You wanted to work on forgiveness of yourself.
Correct. And I needed to forgive myself for those choices that I made that were unhealthy and that were caused by my abuse. And that was just the other one that I wanted to bring up. I know that last night in chat, I was being shoulded all over the place. Like, I had people saying, you should never, Athena, you should never have to forgive yourself. You should never put that guilt on yourself. You should never feel guilty. It is not your fault. You should never feel that way, Athena. You should never. And I was like, okay, with all due respect, it is never a great idea to tell people how they should or should not feel, because I knew my truth, my recovery, my situation, mine. My recovery, mine, no one's, not yours, not anybody else's.
Right.
I knew that for me, when I chose to forgive myself for those mistakes that I made while raising my child, it was life-changing for me. I was able to move forward in my relationships. I was able to go, okay, I'm not holding myself to some unreachable standard. I need to just accept the fact that I'm not perfect, even though I was expected to be perfect when I was younger.
Right.
And I wasn't.
Right.
Then I just needed to let go. I needed to be able to.
And you needed to give yourself grace and understanding.
I did. So I think I was triggered, and it really frustrated me last night because I feel that it's extremely disrespectful to use the words you should and then tell someone else and just should them all over the place. It's not anyone's job to say you should fill in the blank to anyone else. You can't. It's not your job to tell anyone what they should or should not do or think or say or act or feel. It is no one's job ever to put themselves. And even if in all of your well-meaningness and your kindness and I just did it out of love and I was just trying to be sweet, no, it is never okay for you to say to someone like, you shouldn't feel that way. You should do this instead. It's just not okay.
No. And I think, like you mentioned, as survivors, I think we're particularly sensitive to that because we got a lot of that growing up. And for those of us who went from an abusive childhood to an abusive relationship, we probably got a lot of that. I know I got a lot of that in my relationships. What's the matter with you? You shouldn't be angry. You shouldn't be behaving that way. Just pardon me, but I think I've met my entire lifetime of you should or should nots. Um, I don't think I should have to hear any more. You know,
Yeah,
get my
absolutely.
quota.
And
Um,
if anyone is asking, like if I'm saying, Bobby, I really trust you and I'm reaching out to you and I'm sharing with you that this is what I'm struggling with right now. What do you think I should do? How should I handle this, Bobby? Then that is an absolute open door for you to say, you know what, Athena, if I were you, I would do this. Perhaps you should handle it this way
right,
because I asked for it. Like
right,
I did
right.
when I was in pre-engagement counseling with my husband. I remember asking someone or letting them know a situation that was really that was hindering my growth. It was really just it was kind of in the way. I was having some struggles, and it had to do with my um, molestation and rape and abuse and everything that had happened while I was younger.
Right,
And I was not very specific when I was letting this person know what was going on. I was
right.
very vague. And um, the person that was talking with me at the moment was very well-meaning, and I just love them to death. They're amazing. They're great friends of mine. They said, "Well, you should just draw a line in the sand and you need to step over that line and you need to never look back and not worry about it and not think about it ever again, ever, ever, ever. That's just what you need to do."
If only, huh?
Well, if I wasn't dealing with being in the middle of a major complex post-traumatic stress disorder meltdown where my abuse is all flooding back at once and I'm like
Yeah,
completely back in that place, then maybe
yeah.
I could somehow figure out a way to draw a line in the sand and step back over it and never look back and just forget about it. Why don't I just move on? But it is a process for me, and maybe I just haven't reached that pinnacle that other people have reached. And you know what? This is my recovery. This is my
Yep,
life. This is my way that I'm handling, and I'm choosing to go through this day by day, and that is
yep,
why we're doing this podcast. So,
yep.
a little bit of real stuff going on there for you guys if you're just tuning in. We're on the topic of forgiveness.
Well, and again, that's what we're about. Is we're not here just to lecture at you or just to teach you some pie in the sky concepts and theories. Everything that we've talked to you about that we present, we have either waded through in our own recovery or we have helped others wade through. So we're not about theory, we're about application. We want to give you steps that you can take today so that you can make some significant difference in your recovery today.
Yeah.
So,
The resources that we have on our website are there for you, just complimentary, because we just want to add value to your recovery journey. So if you are near a computer or a smartphone, just log on to nomoreshameproject.com. You will see a little button on the website there, and it is called Downloadables.
yep,
Just click on it, and you will get access to all of the downloadable resources that we've ever written ever, as well as all of the videos and everything else. Everything's there. So, and it's just for your recovery, and it's there's no catch. It's just yours.
yep.
So,
Um, and we're getting quite a library. We're going to have even more here pretty soon. Can you see it back up again?
I can.
Okay. um, let's see. So let's look at, when considering forgiveness, remember these tips and strategies. Okay, if your abuser or those who facilitated your abuse seek your forgiveness, you're not obligated to grant it. Just because this person comes to you and says, "I'm sorry, will you please forgive me?" It's more than okay to say, "You know what, I need some time to think about this." It may not be what they expect to hear, or they may just come and say they're sorry and not ask for forgiveness. Um, Whatever you need in that moment, it's okay to say, "I need to get back to you on this one. Let me think about this. Let me process this. Let me talk to my therapist, my friend, my partner, and I'll get back to you." And if you choose not to grant that forgiveness, it's okay too. Um, Again, it's up to you. I haven't seen a whole lot of abusers come to their victims and seek forgiveness. But if and when they do, then it's completely up to you how you respond to that.
Yeah.
I mean, is that something that you've seen really often?
I know that we have a particular gal that is part of our Twitter community, and she works with perpetrators. And in fact,
Right.
she's one of the gals that is, and I met when I was out on a breakfast date with my husband recently. We were sitting at one of our favorite restaurants at Napili Bay, and these two people were sitting there, and they work with perpetrators. Their whole job is to educate them and send them through courses and counseling and coaching and therapy and some sort of process for them to realize the abuse that they had inflicted upon their victims, and to somehow figure out that that is not a way that you are supposed to live, whether you were taught that as a child or whether that was just a habit that you picked up. It's just clearly not okay to abuse other people.
Right.
And they also had some previous work that they had done with survivors of the abuse of these perpetrators. And so they were super excited about the work that you and I are doing, because we're not a part of any type of government organization. This is just something that we're passionate about, and we're just doing it.
Right.
And then I know that the gal in our Twitter community, I believe it's Coach Charlotte. Is it Coach Charlotte?
Right.
Yeah.
Coach Charlotte.
Shout out to Coach Charlotte. She works with the perpetrators.
Right.
And I think she said that there has been some growth in that area where they come to realize the wrong of their actions, and they seek restitution, or they seek forgiveness.
Right.
But it is very rare. I have never once ever had I've never had any one of my abusers come to me and ask forgiveness until just recently. And it was not, I'm not sure that it was a sincere request for forgiveness. It was more of they were throwing their apology at me, sort of like throwing it at me, like sort of assaulting me with their sorries.
Oh.
And that's definitely not a sincere apology. And I had already chosen to forgive that person a long time ago, because I just didn't want to be thinking about it, and I just let it go. I was like, you know what, I'm not the judge, the jury, and the executioner. I just need to let this go, because I am literally being consumed from the inside out with thoughts of this person and everything, and I just need to let it go so that I'm not so physically, mentally, emotionally, and whatever congested. I just felt congested. Right. So anyway.
You know, I've seen more apologies and requests for forgiveness from those who facilitated the abusers. I personally I received an apology and a request for forgiveness from the main person in my life who allowed my abuser to do what he did. And I see that more often, especially from, you know, when you have a two-parent situation and one of the parents is either neglectful or chooses to look the other way while the other parent abuses. I've seen a lot more requests for forgiveness and apology come from that parent that didn't actually do the abuse. They facilitated or enabled it. For some reason, they seem to be more capable of coming to a place where they accept their actions, they're remorseful, and they seek forgiveness. So it's possible. Don't count it out, but also don't count on it, I guess is what I really want everyone to hear. If you're waiting for that day when your abuser comes and says, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I don't want you to count on that in order to move forward in your recovery. If it happens, great. You can choose to deal with it however you please, but you know, don't stack your cards up on the table waiting for that one to come in order to move forward.
Yeah.
Oh, this is an important one. Forgiving your abuser does not mean that they should not be held accountable for any legal consequences of their actions. So because you forgive them for their The crime they perpetrated against you, the actions they did to you, doesn't mean that you don't have to press charges. It doesn't mean that you don't testify in court. It doesn't mean that there are no consequences to their actions. It simply means that you forgive their quote-unquote debt to you. Actions have consequences. Our actions have consequences. If my abuser comes to me and says, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and I say no, there will be some consequences to that. But that's okay, because I made that choice. I can deal with those consequences. When my abuser comes to me and he perpetrates horrible crimes, I can forgive him, but that doesn't mean there are not consequences. That doesn't mean society doesn't have consequences. That doesn't mean that he doesn't have consequences right now in his life from the guilt and shame that are overruling his body and his mind. So those are not the same thing. Forgiveness does not equal a removal of all consequences. Does that make sense, Athena?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, there's always going to be consequences to our actions. And just because I think I got hung up on this for so long, I was so stuck on the fact that if I released my part of the whole thing, if I released my need to punish or hold on to it, that it would somehow give that person the thumbs up, like, what you did was okay. You're totally off the hook, buddy.
Yes, exactly.
And
it's not.
I didn't realize that that's not the same thing as forgiveness. Forgiveness is not reconciling with that person. Forgiveness doesn't mean you trust that person. Forgiveness doesn't mean they're not responsible for their actions. Forgiveness doesn't ever mean that all forgiveness is, in my opinion, and again, these are just our thoughts, that's why it's our show, that forgiveness is releasing you from any type of, I love, shout out to Kimmy. Kimmy has the greatest quote ever. Forgiveness is not allowing your perpetrators or abusers to live rent-free in your head. I know Jack is listening. Kimmy, hopefully you are too. Hopefully you guys are watching together. And that is the greatest quote. It is so true. My abusers and the people who enabled the abuse lived rent-free in my head for 30 plus years. And I'm not going to say that they still don't invade sometimes, because they do. I'm not a perfect human being. Forgiveness for me in my own recovery is not a one and done, check it off my list.
Yes.
I am all about re-forgiving. I am a huge believer in that. And having consequences is definitely part of that. So totally makes sense.
And I think you've done an excellent job there. You're so good at the segue. You've hit each one of the next 3 points.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, sorry. Like I said, you're so good at this. And this is why Athena and I work together, because we're always, intertwined with each other, and one step in lockstep with each other. How's that for saying that?
No, we are always. It's like the Laverne and Shirley, Shamil, Shemaisel. It just seems like we are always in lockstep together.
So forgiving your abuser doesn't mean that your relationship with them has to be reconciled or you have to trust them. So they come and say, okay, I'm sorry, or you say, I forgive you. That doesn't mean that you have to be in relationship with them. I have forgiven my abuser, but I have not had a relationship with him for 20 years. I just have not allowed him to be a part of my life. Now, he's never come to me and sought forgiveness. I know that to have a relationship with him would be very, very, very toxic to me. So that was my decision. I'm done. I'm not allowing you in my life, in my brain, in my heart anymore. I'm done. So just because I forgave didn't mean I have to go back and say, okay, everything's good now, let's be buddies, right? And it certainly didn't mean that if I chose to still have a relationship with him, that I have to go, okay, let's be buddies now, let's hang out, and you can just assault me verbally, emotionally, physically, whatever you want all over again. Forgiveness is not reconciliation. Forgiveness is not trust again. Not the same thing.
And we oftentimes make those distinctions mistakenly. And I know for me personally, I had some people in my circle of family and loved ones that mistakenly enabled the abuse by being absent or not doing anything about it. And then since they were one of the only people that I thought that I could trust because they weren't the actual abuser, I sort of kept them in my life really close in my little inner circle, even though they were verbally very abusive towards me my whole life. Like every time they were around me, they would rip me down verbally, like my self-esteem, or they would call me names like clumsy or dummy or stupid, or
Right.
or they just like I'm a full-blown grown 40-year-old woman, and up until recently, every single time I would be in contact with these family members, I would allow them to call me dummy, stupid, clumsy, you name it, fat, ugly. I allowed myself to be called those names on a very regular basis, and as a result of my allowing myself to be in those situations on a very regular basis, my self-worth and the way I saw myself and the way I showed up in the world was quite warped.
Yeah.
Is warped the right word?
Damaged.
Damaged.
Your self-worth
Something.
was damaged by the toxic words and views and opinions they were sharing. Good grief.
Yeah. Or the constant reminder of every failure I've ever made, or how I'm just not enough, I'm not making enough, I'm not doing enough, I'm not enough. The constant reminders over and over and over again.
Right.
Those are almost just as abusive as the physical, sexual, and etc. Let's just name all the flavors of abuse that I experienced in my life.
Right.
Joe, it just said, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And yes, Joe, it is a long time to have those thoughts roaming around in your head, people living in your head rent-free for 30 plus years. It's a very long time. And Kimmy and Jack say hi. They are watching together.
Good.
So they're listening together.
So that touches on another concept about forgiveness. Even if you don't want to do it to benefit your abuser, one of the reasons you should consider it would be the benefit to you, the release of that anger, that release of that person living rent-free in your head, the acknowledgement of the anger so it's not displaced. Athena talked about how she would displace her anger onto her child. My flavor of anger is to take it out on myself and get really angry with myself. I think that that's one of the huge reasons why several decades ago I attempted to kill myself, is because I was in a situation where several people who I loved dearly had betrayed me. And rather than be angry at them, I did what my abuser had groomed me to do, which is blame myself and be angry at myself. So when I could work through some of that forgiveness, I released some of that anger. And I no longer take out the anger on myself. Like Athena, you talked about, when you forgave your abuser, you released some of that anger and could understand then and stop that raging behavior towards your son and to others in a way that was displaced because it really belonged to your abuser.
Yeah. It was huge for me. It was a big step for me, and I know not everybody is there. No. That's not a choice everybody's willing or ready to make, and that is okay. That is totally your deal.
Absolutely. And the last tip that we talk about on the one page is forgiveness is often not, as you mentioned, Athena, and I like that phrase, a one and done thing. Sometimes we choose to forgive. A couple days later, a couple months later, a couple years later, something comes up and we have to re-forgive. For survivors, this is particularly true because we tend to have additional memories as time comes on. So we thought we had forgiven everything. Oops, now something else has come up, and now we realize there's more things that we might need to forgive again. So it's not, for some of us, I forgive you, that's it, I'm done. I'm never going to be angry again. I'm never going to be upset. You're never going to live in my head. So if you feel like you've forgiven but you continue to have problems, you haven't done it wrong. You're not bad at it. You're not good enough. It's just a process. Like healing is a process. Forgiveness can be a process.
Can I give a visual really quick?
I love visuals. Hit me.
I know. So, so Pay, Dr. Pay, the one that does the Relaunch podcast, so she was saying
Yes.
it would be easy for us to, when we, like, oh, I thought I already forgave that person. Why am I feeling like this again? What's wrong with me? Rather than shaming ourselves for still feeling frustrated or affected by the abuse, it's almost like she was saying, like we were always talking about, like a re-forgiveness. Rather than choosing to shame ourselves, understand that if you are cut open
Right.
and you put a Band-Aid on, you're not going to take the Band-Aid off the next day and the cut's going to be disappeared. Chances are there's going to be a scab, and you're going to rip that scab off and it's going to bleed again, and then you're going to move your finger a certain way and it's going to bleed again, and it's going to bleed again. And so it's not like, oh gosh, I have horrible skin, my body sucks, it doesn't heal wounds properly. It's like almost like it's like a physical manifestation of what it is we're talking about. When you
Right.
are abused, specifically sexually, because that's a lot of what this podcast is about, you know, sexual wounds cut very deeply, and that little Band-Aid that someone wants to put on that, like, okay, you're done, or okay, I prayed
You're
for
better
you.
now.
Yeah, all better now. It's very, I'm very, very, very active in my church community, and it's very common for sometimes for people to lack the compassion or the perspective, and know how absolutely hurtful and even almost re-damaging it is for a victim or a survivor of abuse that is literally, I call it hemorrhaging from all orifices. They come up and they need prayer because they're going through something, because they've suffered something sexual, or they've been raped, or they are having memories, or what have you. And for someone to just go, well, let me pray for you, and then they pray some sort of little vanilla prayer, put their little Jesus Band-Aid on it, and then, okay, move along on your way. You're totally fine now. Jesus is enough. And like you and I have had this discussion before. Yes, in my opinion and in my faith tradition, I do believe in Jesus. I do believe in God. I am very active in my community. However, the level of compassion and perspective that it takes to properly and appropriately minister to someone who is a survivor is it it is huge, and it is not something that everyone is gifted at. That is why I know that what I have and my goal and my passion and all of this that we're doing here for weeks and weeks, and that we're going to continue doing until it makes a difference, or until one of us dies or something. I know that that's a gift. That's something that I've been gifted with. This is a gift for me, because not everybody gets it. Not everybody understands how to properly minister to someone that is, quote unquote, hemorrhaging from all orifices because they've been through something tragic.
And this is why, one of the big reasons why Athena and I wholeheartedly believe that survivors tend to make the best helping professionals for other survivors, because they understand and they get it. That's not always the case. I don't mean to make that a blanket generalization, but because we've been there, and then we've gone and we've gotten the skills that we needed in order to be good helpers, I think there's some tremendous power in that, along with, it reminds me of the Alcoholics Anonymous, the Narcotics Anonymous model. When an alcoholic goes to an AA meeting, who are they helped by? Well, other alcoholics who are in recovery like they are, other addicts who are in recovery like they are. And so that's one of the reasons why we strongly believe that as survivors, let's put our stories out there. Let's share the information that we have, because this is bound to resonate with other survivors and to help them as well.
Yeah.
So, and the last thing on our one sheet is talking about forgiveness of ourselves. And we forget that maybe we need some forgiveness because of mistakes that we made when we were in pain, or because we didn't get, it's not like when I was a child I got things that would help me as an adult in life. Nobody sat me down and said, okay, this is what it's like to be have a relationship, a healthy relationship with a man. So when I got to the point where I was ready to get married, I married the man who I thought everybody would look at and say, okay, he's good. Well, it turned out he wasn't good, but I didn't know how to pick. And so I married a man that I shouldn't have married. In fact, twice I did that, and I ended up divorced. And so I was, 40-some years old, twice divorced, and feeling horrible, feeling so ashamed. And I had to forgive myself for making the choices that I made out of pain or because I didn't get the information that I needed to make right choices.
Yeah.
And we need to do that if we feel that's appropriate. It's not something you have to do. It's not something we're going to shove down your throat.
No.
But if it's something that you choose to do, we will support you and give you any information that you need in order to make that choice. If it's something you choose not to do, we'll support you and give you information that you can use to further your recovery without going through that piece.
Yeah.
It's up to you. It's up to
Definitely.
you. And real quick, I want to mention, if you're really struggling tonight or you're triggered by anything that we're talking about, our favorite resource in the whole wide world for crisis intervention is RAIN. And I always forget what RAIN stands for.
Rape, incest,
what's the A though? Rape,
abuse,
Incest National Network, right?
yes.
Okay, yay. 1-800-656-HOPE, HOPE, or they have a chat feature on their website, RAIN, RAINN.org.
That chat feature is amazing. I tested it out myself just to see, and I was actually connected with someone immediately within 37 seconds.
Yeah, it's great stuff. And so I love them. We love them. We promote them as much as we can because we're not able to be there as a crisis resource. We're not online 24/7, but they are. And so if you're in crisis, if you're triggered by anything that we've talked about tonight, please reach out to them. That's what they're there for. And they're trained and ready and they're available to help.
Awesome. I love them. So if you enjoyed this broadcast, we hope that you did. We hope that you'll share it with your friends and any loved ones that you know that may benefit from the valuable resources that we have that are complimentary. And that's nomoreshameproject.com. And then you just click on the little button that says Downloadables. And those are some really awesome, beautiful resources that we have for you. And they're just ours, our gift to you for being a watcher or listener or subscriber. And we love this work that we do. It is absolutely our life's work and our passion. And we value you and we're here for you. And really quick, before we say goodbye, I want you to be able to close out, Bobby. We have one of our very dear friends who is in our survivor community, and I am proud to say that she is going to step up onto the TED stage on Saturday.
Yay!
And her name is Jody Ortega, otherwise known as Don't Run Baby Girl. And
on Twitter.
On Twitter. And there are several ways you can support her in her TED Talk, and she has a resource on her Twitter bio, in her Twitter feed on how you can support her in her TED Talk, and lots of fun little ways that you can support her. But I just want to give a shout out to you, Jody. We are so proud of you, and just your bravery is so incredible, and we support you 100%, and we are just so proud to be your friends.
Your fangirls.
We're your fan club.
Okay, so let's look really quick at connecting with Athena and I. I know we're a few minutes over time, but we started a few minutes late due to my technical difficulties. And I'm going to read this because if you're listening to us, obviously you can't see the pretty little graphic that we have up now. It says connect with us. So on Twitter, I'm Bobby Parrish at Truth is Hers, Athena Moberg at Athena Moberg, and then we have a joint account at the NMS Project. Email me at bobbylparrish@gmail.com. Athena is at athenamoberg.com. And then we have an email account for the No More Shame Project, and that is nomoreshameproject@gmail.com. And there's our Facebook page. Athena referred to it earlier in terms of talking about that's where you can find the button for No More Shame November. It's also where we did an all call for blogs and survivor stories for No More Shame November. And that's the hashtag, or as I love the way Athena puts it, the tic-tac-toe sign, No More Shame Project. I love that. This just amuses me to no end. And then websites, nomoreshameproject.com. No the on there. If you put the nomoreshameproject.com, I think it gets you some kind of addiction resource center.
Yeah, we are just nomoreshameproject.com.
Yeah, right, no the. And then I'm at bobbyparish.com, and Athena is at athenamoberg.com. Reach out to us. We want to hear from you. We have multiple private, secret Facebook groups that we would love to plug you into so that you can get support 24/7. Amazing communities of amazing survivors. Join us on Twitter. We have our Twitter chat on Tuesday nights. That's at 6 p.m. for Pacific, that's right. And then that's 9 p.m. Eastern, 2 a.m. in the UK. And then we have a theme each week. And next week, our theme is going to be, is it tips and strategies for kicking your shame to the curb in order to kick off No More Shame November, the month of...
Yeah, we are going to switch it up a little bit. I know that normally, I think we already announced in chat yesterday that the theme was going to be narcissistic parents and how prevalent narcissistic parents are in the life of survivors of childhood abuse. But we thought that since we are launching our very first annual No More Shame November, that it may be wise for us to consider to open the topic up to ways that you have found that have helped you with shame. What has helped? Has it been talking to a friend? Has it been blogging, writing, journaling, talking on the phone? Do you do pet therapy? Do you go for a walk with your dog? Do you clean your house? What is it that you do that helps you to not feel the shame of your abuse? We want to know. The topic is wide open, and we will be receiving tweets and emails and posts and everything under the sun, and we're going to share it all with you. Yes. Yep. Carrier pigeon. Here in Hawaii, we have myna birds, so the myna birds will be delivering this here.
So what we'll be presenting next week is just your ideas and your suggestions. We'll give you a one page that is overflowing with information on how to shatter the shame. So if you have something you want to add during the Hangout, we can certainly add those later. But let's gear up for No More Shame November with some excellent strategies on how to have no more shame.
Absolutely. And I just want to, as we're closing out, give a little shout out. You might not be a sexual abuse survivor, but perhaps you survived domestic violence. On Mondays, we have a friend of ours that started Domestic Violence Chat. Her name is Fina Bianco, and I know that she is super excited about No More Shame November, and she also posts on a website called The Flounce, and I think that they're going to allow us to post an article. Bobby, is that correct? We're going to be able to post an article on The Flounce.
I think so. I haven't heard final details yet, but we're working on that. We're going to tap every avenue that we can in order to get the word out about No More Shame November. This is our first one, the premier inaugural. That's the word I wanted.
The inaugural
No More Shame November 14. We even registered the hashtag. So join us. Be part of our charter group of No More Shame November celebrators, and it's going to be the first of many. I promise.
Yeah.
This isn't a flash in the pan thing for Athena and I. This is the beginning. We hope to change the way that trauma survivors are helped through recovery. That's our goal. Make it easier, make it quicker, make it better. So.
Yeah. See it, stop it, change it.
That's right. See it, stop it, change it.
All right. Well, we love you guys, and we are so grateful that you tuned into this broadcast Again, please share it with people that you know or that you think might benefit from this resource. And you can
Right.
always reach out to us at nomoreshameproject.com. There's a little tab that says Athena and Bobby. Just click on it. We'd love to reach out
Yes.
to you.
Okay.
All
Good
right.
night, everybody. Thank you so much for being here.
Aloha.
We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.